In life, we are not hurt by what happens, we are hurt by how we respond to what happens. A word, a look, a delay, a betrayal, it is not the situation, but our reaction to it that decides our peace or pain. And the greatest truth, you may not control the world, but you do control how you respond to it. That control is your superpower, that control is your liberation, that control is your peace. My dear friends, in this world we all face pain, from others, from situations, from the unexpected turns of life. But peace is not something the world gives you. Peace is not found in silence outside, it is found in silence within. And silence within comes when you stop letting others press the buttons of your reaction. A person may insult you, but you don't become insulted until you choose to react to it. A situation may be unfair, but you don't become disturbed until you feed it your emotional energy. And here is the highest truth. When you give someone the power to disturb your peace, you have given them the power over your mind. Why give that power away? When we live reactive lives, we live in chains. But when we become conscious and choose our response with awareness, we live in freedom. The peace you seek is not in controlling people. It's in controlling your reaction to them. It's in not allowing temporary events to steal your eternal connection with God. Because when you respond from the calmness of your soul, not the chaos of your ego, you rise above the noise. You become powerful. You become untouchable. Remember, the world may throw storms at you, but you decide whether to be a storm or a still lake. You can't always change what people do, but you can always change how you respond. That is real power. So today, let us reflect on how we can rise above emotional slavery and live in the peace that comes not from the world, but from the presence of the divine within us. Pause before you react, find God in the silence. There is a moment, so tiny and fleeting, that often gets lost between what happens to us and how we respond. It's that sacred space, that breath, that pause, where everything can shift, but most people rush past it. Something is said to them, and their reaction explodes like a volcano. Someone disappoints them, and the storm inside erupts. But what if we told ourselves that peace isn't something that life gives or takes? It's something we choose in that pause. Imagine a situation. You are driving in heavy traffic after a long day. Suddenly, someone cuts in front of you without warning. Your hands tighten around the wheel, your heart races, and instantly, your mind prepares to react. But right there, in that one breath before you yell, honk, or curse, lies a choice. If you pause just for a moment, you will see this person isn't your enemy, this moment isn't your punishment, and your peace doesn't have to become a victim of someone else's recklessness. Why is that pause so powerful? Because it is in that pause where you are no longer living automatically. You are no longer reacting like a puppet. You become conscious. You step back from the emotion, and in that stillness, you can hear the gentle whisper of God within you. You are not this anger. You are not this tension. You are bigger than this. Every reaction you give to the world is a reflection of your inner world. And when your inner world is filled with constant reaction, it is like a glass of muddy water. Nothing is clear. But when you pause, when you let the mud settle, clarity returns. That pause becomes your power. And in that power, you connect with your higher self, the divine presence that watches calmly as the world spins around you. Let's take another example. A loved one speaks to you with hurtful words. Maybe they're tired, maybe they're frustrated, or maybe they're simply unaware of how their words cut deep. Now, Your instinct might be to respond with equal harshness. After all, why should you tolerate disrespect? But that's the very moment where spiritual strength is tested. If you pause, even for a few seconds, and take a deep breath, you give yourself a doorway to peace. Maybe you realize that what they said had nothing to do with you. Maybe you recognize their pain behind their words. Maybe you feel God within you telling you, choose compassion over conflict. That's the strength the world doesn't understand. The strength of those who pause, reflect, and choose peace when they could easily choose war. The world thinks reaction is power, but reaction is weakness in disguise. Real power is in restraint. Real courage is in stillness. Real wisdom is in waiting. When you train yourself to pause before reacting, life begins to feel lighter. You stop carrying emotional baggage that was never yours. You stop burning in the fire someone else lit. And most importantly, you stop disconnecting from your own center. The presence of God inside you. God speaks the loudest in silence, not in noise, not in reaction, but in that sacred space between your feeling and your response. That pause is where you can feel the divine holding your hand, giving you clarity, calming your heart, and reminding you of who you are, a soul, not a storm. There was once a monk who said, if someone hands you a burning coal and you keep holding it, it's your hand that gets burned, not theirs. Similarly, when life hands you negativity and you grab it and throw it back, you're only continuing the fire. But when you pause, observe, and then decide not to pick it up, you remain untouched, you walk away whole, you walk away free. Try this in your everyday life. When someone frustrates you, instead of speaking instantly, sip some water. When someone insults you, instead of replying, smile internally and remind yourself, their words don't define me. When things don't go your way, instead of panicking, pause and ask, what is this moment teaching me? These tiny pauses will build a massive shift in your life. They will make your mind your servant, not your master. They will make your heart your ally, not your enemy. And they will make your soul a peaceful temple, not a battlefield. The world doesn't need more loud voices. It needs more silent strength. And that strength is born in the pause. That pause is not just empty space. It is full of divine presence. In that pause, God waits for you to choose peace. So next time, when life shakes you, don't react. Pause, breathe, listen, and find God waiting quietly inside that silence. Don't be a slave to emotions, be a master of mind. There is a world inside every one of us that is far more turbulent than the one outside. It's not always the people around us who hurt us the most. Sometimes it's our own mind, our own thoughts, when left unchecked, become loud guests who don't know when to leave. And our emotions, when we don't understand them, become like wild horses pulling us in directions we never intended to go. Anger, jealousy, frustration, insecurity, they are not our enemies, but when we follow them blindly, we become slaves. And a person who is a slave to their emotions will always find peace slipping through their fingers like sand. Emotions are natural. God created us with a full spectrum of feelings for a reason. We are not meant to be cold or unfeeling, but emotions are messengers, not masters. They are indicators, not instructions. The problem begins when we confuse them as commands. Just because we feel angry doesn't mean we need to act in anger. Just because we feel jealous doesn't mean we need to act in bitterness. A mind that cannot observe its emotions becomes controlled by them. And a person who is controlled by emotions will react, overthink, lash out, break things, destroy relationships, and then live with regret. Have you ever been in a situation where something small happened? Maybe someone didn't reply to your message, or your boss pointed out a mistake, and suddenly your whole day changed. Your mood dipped, your heart raced, and you felt the need to do something about it. That's what it feels like when emotions drive the car and we sit helplessly in the back seat. You become like a kite in a storm, completely at the mercy of the wind. But we were never meant to live like that. The mind is meant to be the master of emotions, not the prisoner of them. Think of the mind like a sky and emotions like passing clouds. Some clouds are dark, some are light, but all of them pass. If you anchor yourself to every cloud, you'll never see the vastness of the sky. But if you observe patiently, the clouds drift away and the sky remains untouched. That is what happens when you don't identify with every emotion, when you watch them instead of becoming them. Then you live in awareness, not attachment. Let's take a simple example. Imagine a young boy building a tower with blocks. Another child comes and knocks it down. The first child bursts into tears and yells in anger. But the mother standing beside him does not cry. Why? Because she can see the bigger picture. She knows this tower isn't permanent. She knows that this moment will pass. She knows the child can rebuild it. The same way, when we learn to step back and observe our emotions, we become like that mother, calm, composed, wise. But the truth is, many adults live like children emotionally. They cry when things fall, they scream when things don't go their way, and they react without thinking, not because they are weak, but because they have never been taught to master their emotions. That's where inner discipline comes in. That's where spiritual awareness begins. Not in rejecting emotions, but in understanding them. Not in suppressing pain, but in sitting with it, observing it, and responding wisely. Emotional maturity isn't about being emotionless. It's about being emotionally intelligent. It means feeling everything, but still choosing to respond with grace. It means being hurt, but not becoming bitter. It means being disappointed, but still staying kind. It means hearing harsh words, but not losing your peace. And this is possible only when your mind is strong enough to pause, to reflect, and to decide, not just react. Your mind, if trained, becomes your best friend. But if left untrained, it becomes your worst enemy. It takes you places you never wanted to go. That's why spiritual practice, reflection, prayer, journaling, stillness, they are not luxuries, they are necessities. They help you sit with yourself and see what is really going on inside. They teach you to identify your triggers. They show you where your emotional wounds are. And slowly, you stop being controlled by your emotions and start being guided by awareness. So next time an emotion rises, don't immediately act. Watch it, feel it. But don't follow it blindly. Ask yourself, is this emotion here to guide me or distract me? Is this a moment for silence or a moment for speech? What would my higher self do in this situation? These questions turn your emotions into tools, not traps. They become part of your growth, not your destruction. The difference between a reactive person and a wise one is not that one feels and the other doesn't. They both feel. But one is a slave to the emotion, while the other is a master of the mind. Be that master. The world needs more people who think before they speak, who pause before they react, who feel deeply but act wisely. And remember, God didn't place you on this earth to be ruled by temporary waves of emotion. You are not your anger. You are not your sadness. You are not your fear. You are a soul, vast, eternal, and powerful, who can observe every storm and still stay rooted. Be still be aware, be free. People reflect themselves, not you. There is a great illusion in this world, the belief that people treat you the way you deserve. But the truth is, people treat you the way they are, not the way you are. Their words, their actions, their behavior, they are not always a mirror of your worth, but more often a reflection of their own inner world. A person filled with insecurity will spread doubt. A person drowning in anger will throw flames. A person who hasn't healed their pain will project it onto others. And if you don't understand this, you will spend your whole life trying to fix your reflection in someone else's broken mirror. Imagine walking through a dirty mirror and thinking you are unclean. That's what happens when we internalize people's bad behavior as our own fault. Someone disrespects us, and we wonder, what did I do wrong? Someone ignores us, and we begin questioning our value. Someone criticizes us, and we carry their words like truth. But in reality, their reactions are not always about us. They are about them. Their stress, their ego, their struggles, their shadows. You may be kind, yet someone may still speak to you with rudeness. You may be honest, yet someone may still doubt your intentions. You may love deeply and still be misunderstood. Why? Because no matter how pure your heart is, people will only meet you as deeply as they have met themselves. If they live in darkness, they will interpret your light as something threatening. If they live in pain, they will view your peace with suspicion. And if they carry wounds, your presence may trigger what they haven't healed. This is why inner peace begins when you stop seeking validation from others. When you stop looking for your reflection in their eyes. Because some people's vision is blurred by judgment, by fear, by ego. And if you keep chasing their approval, you will forever run in circles, becoming smaller, quieter, and eventually forgetting who you truly are. Take a simple example. Imagine you are walking down a street smiling and greeting people with warmth. Some smile back. Some ignore you. Some even frown. Does that change your smile? Should that make you stop being kind? Absolutely not. Because your kindness is who you are. How others respond is who they are. If someone throws a stone in response to your flower, it's not your failure, it's their choice. You're only responsible for what you give, not how it's received. One day, a woman brought food to a homeless man daily. She never expected anything in return. But one day, he looked at her with irritation and shouted at her. She stood silent, a little shaken. But she smiled gently and said, "I'm sorry if this is not what you needed today. I'll still pray for your peace." And she walked away. Later someone asked her, "How could you stay so calm when he shouted at you?" She replied, "Because his anger was not about me. I just happened to be there when his pain overflowed." That, my friends, is wisdom. That is spiritual maturity. That is knowing how to separate your identity from someone else's behavior. People are mirrors, yes, but not always clean ones. Some mirrors distort you. Some reflect their fears onto you. And if you take their reflection as truth, you'll begin to doubt your own light. Don't. Always remember your worth is not a vote. It is not a score given by others. It is a divine gift from the one who created you. People's opinions may change with their mood. Their behavior may shift with their circumstances. But your inner truth, your essence, your connection with God, that remains untouched. When someone mistreats you, instead of instantly reacting, ask yourself, is this truly about me? Or is this about something inside them that I've just triggered? This awareness changes everything. It makes you less reactive and more compassionate. It helps you respond instead of retaliate. It allows you to stay calm, not because you are weak, but because you are wise. And in this calmness, you protect your peace and preserve your dignity. We must also learn that just because someone doesn't appreciate your presence doesn't mean it's not valuable. A diamond remains precious even if it's thrown in the mud. A lamp still gives light even if no one thanks it. Your goodness, your efforts, your purity, they are seen. Maybe not by everyone around you, but always by the one above. And that's what truly matters. So stop shrinking yourself to fit into the small frames others have created. Stop changing your colors to match someone else's limited vision. Stop bending your truth to satisfy the ego of another. Instead, stay rooted in your values. Speak with grace. Walk with confidence. And most importantly, never let someone's inability to see your worth make you forget it. You are not here to be understood by everyone. You are not here to be accepted by all. You are here to live truthfully, to grow spiritually, and to love deeply, even when it's hard. So the next time someone judges you, hurts you, or misunderstands you, whisper to yourself, "This is not about me. This is their reflection." And walk on, peaceful, powerful, and free. When you respond with calmness, you defeat negativity. There's a silent kind of power in staying calm when the world around you is losing control. It's not loud. It's not flashy. It's not something that people always notice immediately. But over time, it becomes the most powerful presence in any room. Calmness is not the absence of emotion. It's the mastery of it. It's not weakness. It's wisdom. And the moment you learn to respond with calmness, instead of reacting with chaos, you stop feeding the fire of negativity and instead become a channel of peace. Think about how most arguments start. One person says something thoughtless or rude, and the other responds instantly, matching their tone, their aggression, their pain. Before anyone realizes it, the moment turns into a battlefield. Voices rise, egos swell, and the air thickens with resentment. But just imagine if one person, just one, stayed calm. Not because they are scared, but because they are centered. Not because they are weak, but because they are wise enough to know that not every comment deserves a war. That calm presence immediately changes the energy. It deactivates the tension. It protects the peace. There's an old saying, a spark can burn down a forest, but only if you give it air. That spark is negativity, anger, hate, provocation. And your calmness is the lack of oxygen that suffocates it. If you refuse to feed the spark, the fire dies before it begins. Let's look at a daily life example. You're in a long queue at a grocery store. A person behind you starts getting restless and says something sarcastic about how slow the line is moving. Now, you have two options. You can snap back, "It's not my fault," and create tension. Or you can simply smile, maybe even offer a kind comment like, "We're all tired, but we'll get there." That one calm response does more than you think. It not only protects your peace, but softens theirs too. Sometimes people are just looking for someone to agree with their anger. But when you don't, it forces them to pause. It breaks the pattern. It disarms the negativity. Responding with calmness doesn't mean you accept bad behavior. It means you choose not to become it. You set a boundary not by raising your voice, but by lowering your reaction. You say, "I am not available for this drama." You say, "I have no space in my heart for this kind of energy." And slowly, people begin to see that you're not someone who can be shaken easily. You become untouchable, not because the world doesn't try to disturb you, but because you don't let it enter your inner space. In the midst of chaos, calmness becomes sacred. it becomes a form of prayer. When someone attacks you verbally, when a situation provokes you, and you pause, breathe, and respond with calm clarity, you are not just protecting your energy, you are honoring your soul. You are showing God, I trust you. I won't lower myself, I choose peace. Even in families where emotions run deep and wounds are personal, calmness becomes the healing medicine. Imagine two siblings in conflict. Years of misunderstandings, silent walls, and spoken words have created a distance. One day, one of them reaches out, and the other, instead of reacting with old pain, replies gently, let's not live in the past anymore. I forgive you. That's not weakness. That's spiritual strength. That is a soul that has chosen healing over ego. Calmness doesn't erase the pain, but it creates space for peace to enter. In professional life too, calmness is magnetic. A boss who responds with composure in a crisis becomes a pillar others lean on. A colleague who handles criticism without retaliation gains quiet respect. A leader who listens more than he shouts earns true loyalty. The calm ones don't always stand at the front of the room. But when they speak, the room listens. Because their words come from a place of depth, not defensiveness. But here's the challenge. Calmness is not automatic. It has to be trained. It comes from knowing yourself, watching your triggers, and choosing not to be a slave to the situation. It requires prayer, reflection, and conscious living. It comes from realizing that life is too short to waste on unnecessary noise, that your peace is too precious to be thrown away for someone else's bad day. The world may expect you to explode when provoked, and when you don't, when you respond with a smile, with silence, with strength, you confuse the negativity, you defeat it. You show that your peace is not for sale, that your mood is not controlled by others, that your response is your responsibility. So, when life throws its tests, and it will stay calm, not because life is perfect, but because you've decided not to let the imperfection of others ruin the perfection of your peace. Remember, anyone can react, but only the wise respond. And the calm response is not just a reply, it is a quiet victory. Every time you stay calm when you could have reacted, you win a battle no one else sees. But God sees it. And in that unseen victory lies the strength of a truly powerful soul. Your reaction is your karma, not their action. One of the most misunderstood truths in life is the idea of responsibility. Most people live with the belief that they are the way they are because of how others have treated them. He made me angry. She ruined my day. They forced me to react this way. But the reality is far deeper and far more empowering. While you cannot control what others do to you, you are entirely responsible for how you respond. Their action is their karma, your reaction is yours. And it is your reaction, not their behavior, that shapes your peace, your energy, and your destiny. Let's take a simple situation. Someone criticizes you publicly, perhaps unfairly. Your first instinct may be to defend yourself, to strike back with even harsher words, to protect your pride. But in doing so, what have you really achieved? You may silence them for a moment, but you have sacrificed your inner peace, your balance, and maybe even your dignity. Their criticism was their choice, their energy, their karma. But your response, that became yours. You picked up the negativity they threw, and now you're carrying it. This is the law of inner accountability. Karma is not just about what you do to others. It's about what you allow to rise within yourself. If someone sows anger and you water it with your reaction, then you're growing that anger in your own garden. But if you choose not to react with the same energy, if you stay calm, observe, and respond with wisdom, then you stop the cycle of karma from continuing through you. You become the end of that chain. You become the place where peace returns. In daily life, this truth appears in so many forms. A colleague at work gossips about you. A family member constantly complains and provokes you. A stranger on the road yells without reason. In each of these moments, you're given a choice to absorb their behavior and let it enter your system, or to stay conscious and remember, I do not have to carry their karma into my own space. That awareness becomes your shield. It doesn't mean you don't feel. It doesn't mean you don't have emotions. It means you no longer let others hijack your emotional state. There's a story of a sage who was once insulted harshly by a visitor. The visitor shouted, accused, and tried to provoke him, but the sage sat in silence, calm and undisturbed. Finally, the man said, Are you deaf? I'm insulting you, and you're not reacting? The sage replied, If someone brings you a gift, and you do not accept it, to whom does the gift belong? The man replied, To the giver. The sage smiled, Exactly. I do not accept your anger, so it still belongs to you. That is spiritual intelligence. The moment you react with the same negativity, you've accepted the gift and made it your own. But when you remain centered, when you choose not to act from impulse, you protect your soul from being polluted by someone else's energy. That protection, that restraint, that is the most powerful karma you can build. Our reactions are like seeds. Every time you react with anger, you're planting a seed of unrest. Every time you respond with calmness, you're planting a seed of peace. These seeds grow. They become habits. They shape your character, your relationships, your future. So if someone behaves badly and you carry that energy into your home, your children, your work, it becomes your reality, not just theirs. That's why it's not their action that damages your peace. It's your reaction that either maintains your heaven or creates your hell. Think of a lake. If someone throws a stone into it, ripples appear. But if the lake is still and deep, the ripples fade quickly. The lake returns to calm. Your mind is that lake. Every disturbance will cause movement. But the depth of your awareness decides how quickly you return to peace. The shallower your mind, the more disturbed you remain. The deeper your understanding, the faster you heal. And healing begins with this powerful truth. You don't need to match someone's energy to prove your strength. You don't need to raise your voice just because someone else did. You don't need to lower your standards to meet someone in their chaos. Your true strength is not in reacting, but in choosing not to. Not because you're scared, but because you've grown. Because you've realized that karma is not just an external law. It is internal. It is personal. It is sacred. So from this day forward, let your reactions be your offerings. Let them be conscious, measured, kind, and rooted in the awareness that you choose what kind of energy you want to live with. Let others do what they will. Let them project, provoke, insult, misunderstand. That's between them and their karma. But what you do with their energy, that's between you and your peace. That's between you and God.